What is going on, good people of YouTube? It is me, Chavez, back with another Prizepicks video for you. Today is Thursday, May 4th, 2023. May the 4th be with you. And we're talking NBA player props over on Prizepicks. As always, I hope this video finds you all doing well and in good spirits. We'll kick things off with a quick recap over yesterday's plays. Ooh, what a game. And then we're going to jump into the Prizepicks board because I have a few props, first half and full game, that I want to talk about today. So if you like the way that sounds, stick around, drop a like, drop a sub, click the notification icon, and get notified of all upcoming content and videos from me and my channel. And without further delay, let us jump into those plays from yesterday. All right, if my voice to you sounds really bad right now, man, I was screaming at the top of my lungs yesterday at my dog who broke away from her leash. We were playing in a park. She broke away from her leash and started to chase a motorcycle down the street. I'm not joking. She has this infatuation with motorcycles, sound of the motor. She goes crazy and she just wants to chase it. So she broke away and literally ran down a street for like, it seemed like a football field length. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs her name, trying to get her back. And she finally turned back around. And I was just so scared that she was going to be hit by a car. So yeah, like wasn't even considering like, oh wow, your voice is going to be gone after screaming so loudly. But next morning, this is the result. So bear with me with this video. Let's get into some picks from yesterday. I just wanted to share that with you all in case you were wondering why it sounds so terrible this morning. All right, so speaking of terrible, great segue. Picks yesterday were, listen, the picks yesterday were good picks. The result of the picks were not good. So playoff blowouts are probably one of the worst things in sports. It's not an entertaining game. It suppresses production. Even the announcers, they have nothing to talk about. You can just hear it in their voice. They don't know what to do. Their material's not set for a blowout. So let's talk about these props. The only prop that went over was Jaylen Brown over 24.5 points. He was on fire, just like we talked about in terms of him getting more shot volume. He definitely got more shot volume. And then, Tobias Harris, we looked at a couple of his props, 16.5 points. Now, at the time of me recording the video yesterday, Embiid hadn't been ruled in. Obviously, if Embiid was ruled in, I would have not taken 16.5. I would have taken 14.5, right? However, we took the line at 16.5, and he hooked it at 16. Went into the fourth quarter with 16 points, and none of the starters saw playing time in the fourth quarter. So I really want to believe that had he ran his normal minutes in the fourth, he would have hit both PRA, as he was at 23. He needed 25.5, so he needed 3 more PRA to get over, and he would have hit his points. I really believe that had he played in the fourth quarter, but he didn't. So we take the L on that one. And then our other pick, our most probably disappointing pick of the night, Jason Tatum over 43.5 PRA. Foul trouble. Dumb fouls. He just looked disinterested from the start. Didn't even look like he wanted to be there. As much as I really appreciate the Celtics and enjoy watching them play, I will say that Jason Tatum's body language and play from time to time does concern me in terms of him taking that next step into like that super mega star level. You can't have games like that. Luckily, the 76ers forgot to play basketball, yesterday too. So it balanced out and the Celtics took the win, but yeah, Tatum did not come through for us yesterday. So 1-3 on the day. We recap these plays regardless of the result. I think it's a good thing to continue to do. And I'm very transparent with my results, and I don't really have too much problem sharing, the goods and the bad. So we move on to a new day and we talk about new player props. Let's head on over to the Prizepicks board and break some of these down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we head on over to the Prizepicks board, and I want to start off by talking about some risky first half props. Well, no more risky than Mitchell Robinson fantasy points. So I believe that these first half props or this first half prop is a bit more, I don't want to say of a sure thing, but we have a lot more positive history and reasons to believe that we will get the over on this one. So let's talk about Anthony Davis first. And I want to talk about a couple of his player props in the first half, but the one that we're going to talk about and roll with is his 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The other prop that I like is his fantasy prop. Now, for a lot of players, 29.5, that's D'Angelo Russell's full game fantasy score right there. But for Davis, this is his first half. Because he has immense upside with blocks and steals, and his rebounds are, I mean, if he's going to be rebounding 20 plus, every game in this series, I expect his fantasy score to continue to rise up. But we do get it under 30. But for this video, because it's a much lower score, you have an 8-point difference in fantasy to PRA. I just think this one's a bit more attainable. Obviously, the game logs don't look as good because the blocks and steals aren't in this one. But man, in this game, he can definitely grab 10, 11 rebounds in the first half and get you 12 points. I mean, that is very possible. So we're going to head on over to props.cash and we will break this one down. All right, so looking at the past 10 games for Anthony Davis will leave you scratching your head a little bit. Why do I like this prop? He's only gone over this 3 out of his last 10 games. Or you can look at it through the optimistic lenses of me and say, damn, he's hit this prop in 3 out of his last 5 games. We look at recent history here, and his most recent game versus Golden State, you can see that he put up 35 PRA in the first half. Golden State is still a mediocre team at defending the paint, rebounds allowed, points allowed. And one thing that I listened to with the TNT guys, Charles Barkley said there's no reason Anthony Davis shouldn't grab 20 boards every game. He's too big and he's too fast for Kevon Looney. And when you watch the game and look at the difference in size, strength, and then also speed, that wasn't really on display versus Memphis. It is on display full go versus Golden State. And I think that is the biggest difference in why I like this prop now versus then in round 1. New series, new theories. Remember that. So I like everything I see today for Anthony Davis. One other fact, it's not a stat. It is more of just an eye test for me. Anthony Davis is really hustling in this series. He's diving on the floor for rebounds. I know we joke around about him being fragile. He doesn't seem to care about that in this series, and he's leading the team in just hustle stats. And hearing him talk on the bench about defensive positioning and things like that with his teammates, it just feels like he's more involved in his game. And if this is the result of a more involved Anthony Davis, I am all over it. I want to take the over 21.5 PRA, first half PRA for Anthony Davis. All right, and for the second play, man, there are so many Lakers that I really do like for today, but I do want to keep things interesting, and I don't want to just keep rinsing and repeating the same plays. Now, with my members, I do provide plays before the video is produced and published on the channel. So they're getting a lot of the plays that we talked about in game 1, plus, some new ones. But for the video, I want to keep things fresh here. So I definitely want to talk about a player that we didn't talk about in game 1, and it's Jared Vanderbilt. And I want to talk about the over on his blocks and steals. So let's head on over to that category and pull up Jared Vanderbilt here. Now, if you are a game log watcher, you're going to really like what you see here. So 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gone over this, but you have to dig a little deeper, and that's what we'll do. We'll head on over to props.cash, and we'll talk more about this prop. All right, so looking at the game log for Jared Vanderbilt, if we unfilter that, there you go. So over his last 10 games, 60% hit rate. Over his last 5 games, 80% hit rate. Tremendous production from him. Now, the one thing that I took away from game 1 were his minutes being increased. He saw the most minutes in game 1 versus Golden State in the entire playoffs. Like, he played 26 minutes in that game. He didn't sniff 20 minutes in a lot of those games versus Memphis. So we talked about him being needed on the floor to help suppress Stephen Curry's production. So if he's going to be on the floor, obviously he has to be involved in the offense. Darvin Ham is not putting somebody on the floor who can only do one thing. So we've seen Jared Vanderbilt score a little bit more. We've seen him active on the boards. We obviously know him for his hustle stats, his blocks and steals, and that's what we're talking about today. So that is positive number one. Or positive number two, we talk about his minutes being increased and then him being needed on the floor to guard Curry. Now, over his last 5 games, we can see that he's averaged 3 blocks and steals. In game 1, he had 4. So he went well over his average. Now, is that sustainable? I don't know, but I don't think it's smart to expect another 4 blocks and steals game from Jared Vanderbilt. But as long as he's on the floor for his defense and, long as he's on the floor for his hustle and his grind, he is going to find himself in tons of positions and opportunities to create a steal and a block. There are no shortage of shooters on the Golden State side. So at some point, he's going to be guarding a shooter and he's probably going to block a shot or two. And I just really like the upside here for Jared Vanderbilt. I think 1.5 is way too low for him. I like the over. Enough said. Give me the over. 1.5, Jared Vanderbilt, blocks and steals. All right, and for our third play of the day, I want to talk about a Golden State Warrior. We're done with the Lakers for now. Talk about a Golden State Warrior. I want to talk about Kevon Looney, rebounds. Obviously, I don't have to say much in terms of his production last game, but I do want to look a little bit deeper into his game log. So let us head on over to props.cash and we will break this one down. All right, over on props.cash, we got his 10-game log pulled up. I was so surprised at his production versus AD in that first game. I mean, 23 rebounds in a game is insane. One thing I do want to note is while the matchup with AD is a bit scary, because especially if we're getting this more active, involved version of AD, it's a bit scary, but Looney should be able to hold his own throughout this series. And I don't know if we can expect 20 rebounds from him each game, but man, I think 14 per game is very, very possible. I mean, despite AD's presence, the Lakers still remain, during the regular season, in the playoffs, a team that does allow a lot of rebounds, offensive and defensive rebounds. In that series versus Memphis, digging back a little bit, I know Jaren Jackson isn't really known for his rebound prowess, but even he was able to grab double-digit boards in that series a couple of different times. So 14 and 10 in 2 different games for Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Anthony Davis. I think Looney's a much more active rebounder than Triple J. If he continues to see 30 minutes, which is another positive, what's not to like about his position here. He's seeing 30-plus minutes. He's being active on the floor. The team is trying to get him involved with, handoffs, assists. And listen, he's involved a lot heavily in those pick and rolls too. So, I mean, you could possibly look to his PRA if you wanted to, because he's just seeing a ton of action in these games. But for his rebounds alone, I mean, he just needs the floor time. If he's on the floor, he's staying out of foul trouble, which he has been doing a good job of these last, 5-6 games. I don't see how he can't grab 13, 14 rebounds today. 14, really, we need 14 from him. So 14 rebounds, I don't see how he can't grab that. He just has such a high ceiling. Considering the minutes, his activity on the floor, go ahead and give me the over 13.5 rebounds for Kevon Looney as our play number 3. All right, and for our final play of the day, let's talk about a fantasy point prop for Golden State. I like Draymond Green's 32.0 fantasy score here. Before we head on over to props.cash, I do want to pull up his 5-game log over on Prizepicks. 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gone over this. And more importantly, 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gone over not just his fantasy score line, but this specific fantasy score line. Oftentimes, you'll see a game log look a little wonky because those bars that you see are based off today's prop, not the day that that prop was released, if that makes sense. So the fact that he's been over 32 in 4 out of the last 5 games is promising, because I can guarantee you that his fantasy score wasn't 32.0 in all those games. So there is tons of ceiling here for Draymond Green. Let's head on over to props.cash and talk about it. All right, Draymond Green, I feel like he's flying under the radar here a little bit. You know, a lot of focus is on, how great of a play, how great, Kevon Looney has been in the playoffs and how stellar his rebounding has been. But quietly, Green is going over these fantasy points, as we saw over on over on Prizepicks. 4 out of the last 5 games. Again, more importantly, over that specific fantasy line he's gone over. Now, in game 1, I did the math for you, so you don't have to do the math. But if you want, you can check my facts. You can check it. Green averaged 0.979 fantasy points per minute, and he played exactly 34 minutes in that game. So according to my calculations, that puts him right at around 34 fantasy points, give or take a point, a tenth of a point here and there. If we see similar minutes for him in game 2, which I don't see why we would not, we can expect a similar result from Draymond Green. He's definitely one of the more consistent NBA players, especially in the playoffs. As the rotations tighten down, his minutes will, remain the same or even increase. We do want to see more points from him, though, because he only gave us 6 points in that last game versus the Lakers, while he was active in other areas, got you 4 rebounds, got you 7 assists, and then even contributed heavily in the blocks and steals department with 4. That really drove his fantasy score up. Now, it's not a fluke, because you can see Draymond is very active in the stocks. Very active in the stocks here. So this is not just a one-time thing. We can really count on this as a big part of his fantasy score, which is why I like attacking his fantasy score, because what he lacks in scoring, he makes up for in blocks and steals. But going back to his points very quickly, he missed a couple of easy layups. He missed some bunnies, man. Like, he should have been 4 of 9, 5 of 9, easily been 4 of 9 from the field that day, and that would have given him an additional 2 fantasy points just to give him a little bit more cushion. But all we care about today is him getting 32.1 fantasy points. We need that to go over his 32.0 line. I like the over once again on Draymond Green's fantasy points. So overall, these are our props on the board. We got 2 Lakers, 2 Warriors, Davis over, first half PRA, Vanderbilt over, 1.5 blocks and steals, Kevon Looney over 13.5 rebounds, and Draymond Green over 32 fantasy points. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for stopping by, checking this video out, and bearing with me and my unlistenable voice here. Hopefully I recover fast and I don't have to sound like I was out all night at a concert or something. So once again, thank you so much for stopping by the channel, checking this video out. Drop a comment below. Let me know who you like on the Prizepicks board and what you think about these player props. And as always, thank you all so very much for the continued support, the likes, the subs, all the comments. It really does help this channel get a bit bigger every single day, as every single day we get closer and closer to reaching 5,000 subs. Channel is growing at a rapid rate. Thank you all so much. It's because of you. Speaking of growing at a rapid rate, be sure to check out the link in the description below to my free player prop Discord server, 100% free. Click the link, verify you're a human being, read the rules, and you're in. We're talking player props throughout the day over there. Really good people, really sharp people, talking player props first half, second half, sharing slips, sharing just a lot of information over there and just having a good time doing it. So be sure to check that out if you want to know more. See that link in the description below. And best of luck to you all tonight. Should you tail any of these plays, drop a comment letting me know that as well. And until tomorrow's NBA player prop Prizepicks video, Chavez is